You are listening to the Mark Lesko podcast, a podcast by diehard fans for fans. Mark covers all things Penn State football and the Pittsburgh Steelers, as well as anything related to the sports and fitness world. Tune in weekly to listen to a couple of dedicated fans talk about these topics without filters. Thank you for listening to the Mark Lesko podcast.
What's up, Steeler Nation? Welcome to the Mark Lesko podcast. I'm your host, J-Rod, and this is Steelers Central. Guys, I know how you feel. I know how the entire Steeler Nation feels at this very moment. I think the best way to sum it up is that old saying where you threw the string of hope out at us, all the coaching, choices you could have had. You threw that long list down on the ground like we're just a bunch of cats and yanked it away from us and just presented us with Mike McCarthy. Mike McCarthy is the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. I remember when I saw this guy was one of the candidates. They said like they brought him in for a second interview. And when I saw that, my brain kind of was in a lock of shock. Like, I was like, wait, time out. This guy is going to be coming in for a second interview. It's one thing they got him a first one, and they got him a second one. And the fact that they made this choice before this weekend was over, before the chance to even, get Shula or Shieldhouse in for an in-person interview, leads me to believe this was predetermined. Leads me to believe that they really pretty much had this decision down like days, before they even, because there's no way that you could have come into this situation that you just were like, we're going to make this decision, we're going to make it Mike McCarthy, unless you knew this was going to happen. There's no way that anybody else had a shot. I cannot even fathom how all the other head coaches or the coordinators or whoever has been, vying for a spot felt in that regard of like, wait, I don't even get a second interview. Like, you just decide to go in with Mike McCarthy. Folks, it's just a continuation of what we saw this year. It is just a continuation of mediocrity. And it's a continuation of the standard. Somehow that has been eked into Art Rooney's brain by Mike Tomlin, and he has decided to keep following that letter. And now again, I was asked by Mark to watch a video about Wiley talking about reacting to what Debo James Harrison had to say about Mike Tomlin as a Hall of Famer. And yeah, I mean, there's no other evidence to support that the guy will not be a Hall of Famer. I mean, I can have my own personal preferences on this, but it would be very obvious that this guy is going to be a Hall of Famer. 17 straight seasons of non-losing, or 19, sorry. And you had 0 losing record. You had the youngest coach to win a Super Bowl. Like there's a lot of cachet to his credentials. But when you say, those types of accolades, being the youngest coach to ever win a Super Bowl, that just goes to show you he came into a situation where it was, pretty much set up for success. That was an organizational thing. I'm sorry. I mean, that really is what it comes down to. Now, did he have all those players to coach for 2 years? I mean, yeah, but being 35, 36, you're basically about everybody else's age. Pretty much. I mean, some of the guys are 30, 32. Some of them are 35 and 37. Some of the guys were older than Mike Tomlin when he first took over the job. And I will say this is going to be the last time I bring up Mike Tomlin on the Steelers Central. I'm not saying that I don't want to talk about the guy, but I know that this is kind of like, I want to move forward with what we have. I mean, I have to move forward. I mean, I'm not saying I want to with this situation, but this is what we are given. But no, Tomlin will be a Hall of Fame coach. There's no disputing this. But there are a lot of things that I personally see from the setup that he had and the players that were given to him by the Steelers organization. I mean, between Kevin Colbert and Rooney's, the guy was given a lot of success. Like, there was no real building. He had the Hall of Fame quarterback. He had that elite defense, and he had the coaching staff of the defensive coordinator in Dick LeBeau, who will go down as one of the greatest defensive coordinators to me in my generation, because he just was the guy. He was the man. But going ahead with this, just bringing in a guy like Mike McCarthy is just, like, guys, I have watched several podcasts. I have watched several analysts break this down. And anyone who covers the Steelers in terms of podcasts, I mean, we all have our moments right now. We all have our say in it. And my personal opinion is, guys, I mean, I know that Mike should not be the head coach. He should not, but it's out of our hands. This is not a situation in which we, the fans, have really a say. Really. I mean, I know we don't have to come to games. We can boycott. We can just say, all right, I'm done with the Steelers. I'm done. And yeah, this goes against everything that the Steelers have preached for the last 3 head coaches. All of them were defensive minded. All of them lasted very long, and all of them were in their 30s and 40s when they were hired. Now we've got a 62-year-old who will be 63 soon. And, you know, you're trying to lure back a 42-year-old quarterback in Aaron Rodgers. Now, I did just read somewhere that something was put out. Now, again, you can't believe everything you see online, but there was something that was put out by Mike McCarthy saying that, you know, he's intrigued by a guy like Will Howard to take to the next step. And it's like, dude, you're kind of in the same boat as Tomlin. Dude, when you came into Green Bay, 16, 17 years ago, you were given the last years of Brett Favre, and then you inserted Aaron Rodgers, and he was like the greatest thing to happen in the 25 years in the game. He was one of the most elite quarterbacks, one of the best decision-making and elite accuracy. Like, he was just a Terminator with that quarterback position. He was amazing. And then you went down to Dallas, and, you know, the Dak Prescott, Tony Romo situation like that kind of mirrors a little bit of what he also inherited. And yeah, Dak Prescott, for many of us, if they have the debate, like, you know, is Dak Prescott a good quarterback? It's basically like he's got Drew Brees' numbers, but he doesn't have the success of a, you know, future Hall of Fame quarterback. So, but despite that, he does have the numbers. He throws 3,000-4,000 yards a season. He can give about 20, 25, maybe 30 touchdowns, and gives up about half the interceptions. But dude was always a good passer. So it's not like the dude didn't have talent, but it was never in a position to be said, you know, like he was a great, you know, option at the time, given what everybody else was doing in the league when Dak Prescott was being asked, are you a good quarterback? And then Mike McCarthy got that. He got kicked out of that situation because despite going, 3 straight 12-win seasons, he did not produce a Super Bowl. He did not produce a playoff run. He was basically inheriting what the Steelers curse is right now. We just like to get into the playoffs and be done. That's really what we have. Let's see here. We got a comment, guys. Let's see. Lombard Lunatic. We need to see what we have in Howard. I was tired watching Tomlin trying to throw up a QB at the wall, seeing which one would stick before and after the pick. Say, yeah, I agree about that. Totally, Lambert. But the bottom line is, this situation is just all about Rooney and his ego. And he just wants to have his control, his say. And this is really what we have to deal with in ownership. Because if you really look at it, it is basically a layer of scapegoats. It's just it's a question of how high does the cake layer go in terms of every NFL team, because if you look at certain teams, it's obvious like how big the layers are and like how small the cake is. And unfortunately, the Steelers did have layers of protection when it came to like, this is the issue at hand where Rooney is really the mastermind behind the whole thing. I mean, not that we shouldn't have seen that or had any inkling to suspect it, because again, Tomlin was the guy who makes all the decisions on the field. So we were all being like, all right, it's got to be Tomlin. It's got to be 100% Tomlin. And I'm still going to say it's a good 60% of the times I would accuse him. Like, of the 100 things that I would always say about Tomlin, I still think 60% of those reasons are valid. But now we're starting to see that this all could have just been Rooney being, all right, we're just using Mike Tomlin as the ultimate scapegoat, and he didn't mind it because, again, he always had a good rapport with his players. He was always the best player coach, like, guy. Like, he had a great atmosphere in his locker room in terms of he always had their respect. They always had his trust. They saw him as a leader. And a leader and a coach can be two different things. They can be. It's tough to see the differences, but yes, I think a leader and a coach can be two different things, because a coach is supposed to be able to make all the best decisions on the field as well as keep everyone in line, and a leader just makes sure that no one's really biting each other's heads off in the locker room. I mean, this seems like you're just there to kind of keep everyone together as a whole. Like, that's really what I think a lot of head coaches have to deal with in the NFL. Now, is it also due to the lack of coaching in the locker room? Like, you think about how many coaches are on staff with Tomlin's years, and they were very low. Now, again, could that have been a Tomlin decision, or was that Rooney being cheap and not basically saying, well, we're not going to give you as many coaches as, you know, like the whole Sean McVay thing. I think they say he has over 20 some coaches on his staff. Like, I think he has like 6 to 8 different coaches on his staff than the Steelers do. So having those 6 to 8 extra coaches probably does make your job or the organization a little more successful, but probably costs a lot more. And again, if there's one thing that the Steelers or the Pittsburgh culture always will preach, no matter who it is or what team it is, cheapness is always a factor. The fact that they went out and gave DK Metcalf that 5-year, $150 million, or 130 million, no, 150. So it was 30 years every year. That was nuts. I mean, again, how many deals do you see the Steelers give out in that capacity outside of TJ Watt, the once in a generational guy? And I mean, Cam has always been that model guy in terms of, like, he always set the tone for the defense, regardless of TJ being who he is. Cam Hayward is the real defensive player that the Steelers embody, and that's who you always think of when you think of the Pittsburgh Steelers and that, like, persona. It's like, I always think of Cam Hayward, big, physical, just brute of a guy, just knows how to tear up the whole thing, and he does, like he has been for the past couple of years. I mean, we always talk about Cam in his early years, but all of a sudden it's like he's rejuvenated. The guy is just doing some spectacular things on the field. I can't argue with, like, how he has performed throughout the last couple of years. But this team has always been traditionally a defensive team. Now, the one positive I will say, regardless of who is the new head coach, I don't care if that it is Mike McCarthy, the fact that this dude is an offensive-minded guy, that is a huge difference. There has not been a offensive-minded coach in Pittsburgh since before Chuck Noll. So we're talking over 60 years since they've had a guy like that at the helm. So seeing that there is going to be offensive shift, I know a lot of offensive guys are going to be thrilled that they're going to be doing this. So do you keep the same staff This is a real big question, I think, when it comes to how is Mike McCarthy going to handle this? Now, again, I am not in favor of this whatsoever. I am basically on board with everybody else who talks about the Steelers. I'm not agreeing with it whatsoever. However, I am one of those people that I'm not saying I've got the patience of a saint, but I very much want to try my darndest to never say never, even if it's like, Joe Schmo that comes in and, just picking his nose and just saying like, who knows what he's going to do. I'm going to just have a little patience with this whole thing. Now, again, we don't know how his coaching staff is going to look. We don't know how many players are going to be brought in. Now, Mike McCarthy has not coached in the NFL for 2-3 seasons or something like that. So it's quite possible the dude has been basically giving us a beautiful mind interpretation of maybe offensive play. Who knows? Maybe he has kind of put himself in that idea that we could be an offensive minded team. He could be drawing up plays this whole time. I don't know the whole situation, guys. Again, I know what the situation is. The situation is simply that the guy is just cheap. Art Rooney's cheap. So the Steelers organization are just going to go for the quick fix. They're going to go for the what's going to be the way to get us out of this situation quicker. Because, again, heaven forbid you do a rebuild. Heaven forbid you have to put yourself – because, again, in their heads, that costs too much money, and we don't want to afford that. They don't want to afford that. It's not that they can't afford it. They don't want to afford it. So, hey, what's up, Thomas? Not a fan of Magic Mike McCarthy. Do not draft Carson Beck or Haynes King. And no, Howard is not on the future either. That would be a shame. And I mean, listen, this is also something a lot of people brought up, and I kind of agree with it. Is this a bridge coach? I mean, it's quite possible, but I don't know what coordinator they're going to bring in that is kind of fitting the mold of the head coaches that are going to be available. This situation would require, if we're lucky, maybe Shieldhouse would be open to doing an offensive coordinator position. I know he can be a head coach. I know that's the route, but again, you can only hope that maybe we can get the guy to consider it because, he's a passing game coordinator. He's not like any kind of big name person right now in terms of title. He's never held that kind of coordinating job. But then again, neither did Mike Tomlin. So it's very much it's nickel and diming. Let's see. Should have been Shula or Ryan Day. Yeah, I know, dude. Everyone's talking about this Chris Shula thing, which is, again, I can only imagine how he's feeling right now, where it's like, I have a game to prepare, but I'm also trying to prepare for head coaching jobs, and now I don't have the Steelers on me. It's like, what? Why? What have I not done to prove that this could be the greatest thing that we've ever had? And it could have been. This dude would have been for the long haul. He would have been a 10, 12-year guy. The rebuild would have maybe taken 2 years. A young guy like Chris Shula, who has the DNA of the greats of football. The dude's name is Shula. His grandfather was one of the greatest head coaches in the history of the NFL. So it's like he has the cachet in the sense his family history is embedded in the NFL. And you're saying the guy couldn't even have a head coaching position? That would have been one of the greatest things. And people are always bringing up, did Mike McCarthy get this job because he's a Pittsburgher? It does seem like that is kind of where it's going. I don't see any other justification. Everything about this just does not scream that they were trying to get something going. They were not trying to become something more than what they have once been. They are not trying to get themselves over this hump with this move. There's just not. So, and again, we know what the situation is with the quarterbacks with the NFL draft this year. Everyone was talking, oh gosh, we've got 5 or 6 big options. Here we come. But this now all of a sudden it's like no one is thinking this. All of a sudden the quarterback position for this draft class is just a mess. It's inconsistent. It's garbage almost all of a sudden. It's like, how is that possible? Let's see. I was on the Shula train for sure. Lambert, a lot of us were. Everyone was talking about that guy. And again, it was all about knowing that he was probably going to ask Art Rooney for a crap load of coaching changes. and a lot of like more coaching. And again, more money. This has always been the kryptonite of owners where it's like, is this going to cost me more? And a lot of them will just be like, nah, I'll just put the Band-Aid on this and maybe we'll kick it down the, road for a couple more years until, one of my kids wants to take over and I'll leave with like the chance to go back to the playoffs and lose again. It just seems like, why in the world are you putting all your chips in on potentially one of the oldest coaches in the NFL, one of the oldest quarterbacks? I mean, you put their ages together, it's 105. That's just insane. There should never, ever be a thing where if you take two people's ages, put them together, and they're triple digits in the NFL today. That doesn't sound like a winning formula to myself. See here, Thomas awaiting the massive trade for draft picks for TJ Watt, also waiting for Dion to be Browns coach. Oh, good gosh. Wouldn't that be the perfect circus? That's a good one. I like that. But hey, crazier things have happened in the NFL. We're witnessing it right now. Oh, guys, again, it is just this unfortunate circumstance of what could have been, and now here we are living everything all over again with just a guy who basically is what we had before. It's so unfortunate. So I'm going to wrap this up, guys, and saying this has not been the most disappointing way to start the 2026 year. And again, ending with that horrible playoff loss at home, 30-6, one of the worst division games ever played at Acrisure Stadium or Pittsburgh. It's, again, you're just rolling it over, and we're just going to be dealing with the same stuff as we were before. And again, podcasters for the Steelers, we've got our work cut out for us in terms of like we're slowly morphing into the Pittsburgh Pirates. We're slowly morphing into this idea that we're just going to be trapped in this never-ending cycle of mediocrity and or it's just disappointment. And we're constantly just having to shake our heads. And again, the fact that the NFL draft is in Pittsburgh this year, what are we going to go into as fans? I mean, that whole city is just going to feel like, whoopee, whatever. I mean, just one more comment. Was the McCarthy hire worse than the Blizzard snowfall? I mean, listen, where I live, I'm looking at probably, I want to say 14 inches of snow. I mean, it's piling up out there. But where I live, we've got plows that go through the neighborhood, and it's a nice little system. The folks actually have their own little plow, so we know how to get ourselves out. So it's good here. But yeah, this couldn't have come at a crappier time in the sense like we're all snowed in, waiting for the AFC champion, waiting for the NFC championship games to happen today, and we're just stuck with this kind of, again, this Groundhog Day kind of setup where I just feel like we're trapped. And we're going to be stuck in this blizzard. Yeah, I mean, this does feel like this kind of dome of mediocrity that we can't get out of. And until that changes, we're just going to have to accept the fact that these guys the ownership has a lot of answering to do. And again, I feel bad for Mike McCarthy myself. I feel like this guy who has been a Pittsburgher his whole life probably thinks this is like a dream come true to be the head coach of his hometown. And it should be something to be celebrated in the sense like, hey, we got a Pittsburgher in this area. And yeah, the guy is basically your grandfather. But this right here is this has to be met with so much, negativity, and rightfully so. I mean, it was not the right time to go this route. It is unfortunate. I feel bad for Mike McCarthy. I do want to try just to give him like a 2% window. Like I want to creak the door open just enough to know that it's not shut, but at the same time, it's like we know what this is. This does, again, like what Tom said, it does feel like this is a bridge situation. We're just doing nothing but kicking it down the road. Like I said, we're just going to be stuck right now in this mediocrity, and I just know that this is not fun. This is not going to be fun. So I know, guys, this is the worst news in the sense like it's kind of a setback, and We're just going to have to continue to, cross our arms and just wait for the parents to finally get to the destination. I feel like we're in a car trip, and we're just, are we there yet? That's what it feels like, we're the kids in the back seat just kicking the chair saying, do we ever hit, new future yet? Are we going to be champions again? And it just seems like we're never there. We're just constantly driving around, spinning our wheels. And this is what we're going to have to look forward to. So keep your arms crossed, guys, and just try your darndest not to pout too much. But it's a shame. So I'm signing off, guys. Thanks so much for commenting. Hey, if you guys like and subscribe, Mark Lesko Podcast if you're new. And hey, here we go, Steelers. Hang in there, guys.